Dearest e-grader and delightful friends, a very good day to all of you. I'm Shankri Venugopal with student ID number 860-830-235272-001. And for our subject, Adolescent Psychology ABPD 1303, we are going to be discussing on the title Psychological Response to Puberty in Adolescents. For an overview, let's briefly discuss what is puberty. Puberty, the definition of puberty is a developmental stage where children are transitioning into adulthood. And what is the objective today? This is for us to understand the psychological changes that takes place during puberty. From adolescence to adulthood, from child to adolescence. It is about viewing all of this from an adolescent psychology viewpoint. The psychological response to puberty can be complex and varied and influenced by a combination of biological, social, and environmental factors. Puberty is a significant period in an adolescent's life, marked by rapid bodily changes as well as psychological and hormonal changes. And understanding this from a psychological perspective helps us to provide better support for our adolescents. There are 5 theories in this field, and we can use this to understand our topic today further. The 5 theories of development are learning theory, cognitive developmental theory, psychodynamic and psychoanalytic theory, ecological system theory, lifespan perspective theory. These 5 can come together to help us understand better the adolescent phase. Adolescence is a unique and formative time. Physical, emotional, and social changes, including exposure to poverty, abuse, or violence, can make adolescents vulnerable to mental health problems. And this, according to UNICEF, 1 in 7 of adolescents have mental health problems. But the data shows that less than 7% of adolescents are actually represented. Let's look into cognitive development of adolescents. During puberty, the adolescent brain goes through significant development, particularly in the areas related to emotional regulation and decision making. These changes can impact behavior and emotional response. As we all know, our youngsters, they are highly emotional and they can be very angry, aggressive, and all of that. They have those opinions at that time. Puberty is associated with psychological changes such as hormonal changes, mood swings, and issues related to body image issues. This takes place as the brain's changes takes place. And most importantly, the failure to adapt to these changes adequately can really result to many psychological issues and the adolescent struggling. And it could even, in a more dangerous scale, can end up in psychological disorders. Now let's look into the emotional and mood changes of the youngsters. All these actually takes place why? Because of the hormonal fluctuations during puberty, and this leads to mood swings and increased sensitivity. As you all may know, a youngster may get quickly embarrassed because they are so caught up with their own emotions, or they can get very offended with their parents and family members, and they're just expressing their emotions due to those hormonal influxes. At this important adolescent stage, they are also developing identity and self-concept. According to our German psychoanalyst Erik Erikson in his theory, adolescence is a stage of crisis. The crisis between identity and role confusion. Why? Because at this stage of adolescence, we are forming new identity and we are in conflict with the societal expectations of what we should be. Adolescents engage in self-exploratory, trying to create a stable identity by experimenting with different roles. And some of these roles that they try to experiment with is trying to take up new hobbies, friendships, and career interest. They are trying to stabilize their understanding of the world. And they also try to adapt to new beliefs and values. They try to develop political ideologies and personal values. And another thing is they try to adapt to new lifestyle that they believe in, such as dietary choices. They try to be vegan, vegetarian, and their fashion choices and their social behavior. This is all part of the growing process and the growing pains. And the successful resolution, according to Erik Erikson, the successful resolution of this stage creates a strong sense of identity in our youngsters, in the adolescents. But the failure of this can lead to role confusion and a weak sense of self. Now let's look at social relationships. At this adolescent phase, it is so much of changes are happening and peer influence becomes particularly strong. As you notice, the teenagers, they'll become extremely close to their friends and yet a little distant from family. Relationships with family members will also change as adolescents seek more independence and try to navigate through the world around them. Adolescents seek independence, a stage where youngsters are trying to seek autonomy from their parents. They want to have a sense of self. Next, let's look into the adolescent brain. Now, this is particularly interesting. When we talk about structurally, there's so much of changes that are taking place. So I'll just run it through with you. The corpus callosum thickens, improving the ability for processing information. The amygdala develops earlier than the prefrontal cortex. This involves with higher level of cognition's process. The underdeveloped prefrontal cortex. This causes them to have risk-taking behaviors, and they're trying to test and see what is their ability. Adolescents can develop abstract thinking and higher order cognition at this stage. But they are also taking higher risks, and their risky behaviors, they're testing their boundaries. So we need to also know that as we know their structural changes of their brains, this also gives us that allows us to give them the space as youngsters to make decisions and give them that growing space. Now, another thing is that according to cognitive developmental theory, Piaget's theory, this is called the formal operational stage, which is above 12 years old. And during this stage, as we spoke earlier, abstract thinking, development of higher order thinking skills takes place. They are able to reason hypothetically, and they are able to solve complex problems, engage in scientific reasoning. All of these takes place because of their development of their brain and their stages in development. During these, despite all the changes, there's also mental health challenges. Common mental health challenges during adolescence include anxiety, depression, and stress-related disorders. Anxiety, depression, and eating disorders are one of the main mental health concerns. And we need to set the right coping mechanisms for our youngsters because they are dealing with higher hormonal changes and social pressures. They also, their need for performing in front of a society can trigger anxiety. And with regards to body image issues, this is a rampant problem that's happening in our youngsters today. As you can see, adolescence is a unique and formative time, as I mentioned earlier. Protecting our adolescents from adversity and promoting social and emotional learning and psychological well-being ensures their mental health are well taken care of. As you can see, from 10 years to now, the changes have been massive. The youngsters sleep lesser now due to social media and all. There's increase in self-harm. Depression symptoms have increased. They have tried alcohol more frequently, smoking, assaulted people, and vandalizing, and the rate of obesity. All of these are impacting our youngsters. There is a change from the 10 years prior to this and to now. This is a report by BBC. We need to support our adolescents at this stage. The role of us as parents and educators play a very crucial role in supporting our adolescents. providing the right supportive environment, encouraging open communication, and being understanding of their experiences can help adolescents. To summarize, the importance of supporting our adolescents through this critical developmental stage cannot be stressed enough. Youngsters are our future, and we need to do our best to make the best of them and make them successful predecessors of ours. Thank you.